It's always a tremendous pleasure participating in events that celebrate the incredible work of Teach NYS and to have the opportunity to express not only gratitude, but awe at all of the work you do supporting each of our individual schools and your collective work in the legislative arena and the aggregate of its impact on each and every one of our students. It's a particular honor to be here this evening, introducing one of our most dedicated and wise lay leaders, Mr. Daniel Lowy, recipient of the Activist of the Year Award. Daniel does so much, so well for the Manhattan Day School community and our broader Jewish community that it would take this entire program to enumerate fully his myriad and gracious contributions. The nature of his vibrant leadership of our board of directors, where his clarity and creativity push all of us to aim ever higher. His visionary spearheading of a finance subcommittee to ensure optimal practice and financial sustainability. His devoted stewardship at the Westside Institutional Synagogue, where he's a role model not only for lay leadership, but inspired daily Torah study. And his commitment and passionate advocacy in the political arena for all matters pertaining to the well-being of Am Yisrael. So rather than enumerating, what I'd like to do by way of introduction is to speak to a core value that I think really animates Daniel, a legacy that he both inherited and very much builds upon in his own unique way. I share that value by way of a powerful story that I read earlier this year in the Times of Israel, in an article dated May 29th, 2019, about Daniel's grandfather, Sir Frank Lowy, who had just made Aliyah at the age of 90. The article was subtitled, Holocaust Survivor Who Fought as Part of the Haganah in 1948, Sells Real Estate Empire and Returns to Israel. And it spoke of how Frank, born in Slovakia in 1930, was interred in the Budapest ghetto, where his father, Hugo, disappeared. Frank escaped to France, tried to reach Palestine, was imprisoned by the British in an internment camp in Cyprus, before finally arriving and joining the Haganah, where he fought bravely to birth the Jewish state. He spoke of his poverty as a penniless refugee during those years, a lone soldier who was unable to buy even the hummus and falafel that his fellow soldiers purchased. And how he moved to Australia, where he built a family and a community and an empire, but always dreamed of returning to Israel. He also dreamed of discovering what happened to his father, Hugo, all those years ago in Budapest. And what he ultimately discovered decades later from a fellow survivor is a legacy that is alive very much tonight here in this room. In 1991, after 50 years of not knowing what had happened to his father, Frank met an elderly man who had been arrested alongside Hugo on the streets of Budapest and deported together with him to Auschwitz. And he reported that when they were lined up upon arrival, Hugo gave his life for refusing to relinquish his talit and his tefillin on that lineup. And despite repeated demands, he held on to them, unable to willingly allow those sacred objects to be defiled, and unable to envision a life without the ability to perform those precious mitzvot. A dedication to Jewish values and practice and traditions, a fierce commitment to protecting heritage, and an almost unfathomable bravery run deeply in Daniel's legacy. Daniel proudly calls himself a Baal Teshuvah, someone who as a young adult embraced in the fullest of ways the traditions of his great-grandfather. Daniel, with the loving support of his wife Alana, pushes all of us to create, sustain, and support institutions where Jewish life is lived with joy and purpose and meaning. He does this dedicated work for his own radiant, delightful children, Eyal and Chana, Ra'anan and Leora, but he equally does it through Teach NYS for all of our children, now and for generations to come. It is a true honor to introduce Mr. Daniel Lowy.